My name is Chris Brown, and I'm a local government lawyer in Mansfield, Ohio. I'm also the immediate past chair of the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. Thank you so much for your participation in the Student Debt Week of Action. I can tell you from personal experience and from speaking with thousands of young lawyers across the country that the number one issue facing America's young lawyers is student loans. It impacts their lives in a number of ways, but the most salient of which are things like postponing a vacation, postponing the purchase of a house, or getting married, or starting a family. Another way that student loan debt impacts young lawyers is that according to the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division 2020 Student Debt Survey and Report, 37% of young lawyers reported that they chose a job on how much it paid rather than it being the type of work that they really wanted to do. That's a problem. A lot of young Americans go to law school with aspiration of serving their communities and helping those in need. But the reality is that a lot of those public interest jobs and other public-facing careers don't pay the bills. And more specifically, they don't pay the student loan debt bills. Perhaps you have heard that according to that same survey, over 75% of respondents said they had over $100,000 in student loan debt at the time of graduation. It shouldn't cost that much to go to law school in our country. Dovetailing with this issue of young lawyers who would like to make a difference in their communities is the shocking statistic from the Legal Services Corporation that said over 86% of low-income Americans who had a legal problem either received inadequate or no legal help at all. We often refer to this as the access to justice gap. But we currently have a solution that could solve both of these problems at the same time, and that is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, also called PSLF. Our country and our profession both have a strong tradition and proud tradition of public service. And these types of programs, like PSLF, are the perfect incentive and reward for people who do this critically important work. As I like to often jokingly say, if some is good, then more is better. And that's exactly how I feel about PSLF. We should be thinking about ways to improve and expand the PSLF program. For starters, the red tape. As with almost any great government program, one of the number one downfalls is the red tape. And perhaps you're thinking about that Forbes article from a few years ago when the first round of PSLF applicants applied and over 99% of applicants were rejected. That is a truly shocking number. While I'm sure that no one expected 100% of the applicants to be successful on the first go-around, I think the fact that only 1% were shows that there was a problem with more than just the applicants. Let's also take a moment to recognize that I'm sure a high percentage of those applicants were lawyers, and if they couldn't wade through that red tape, then surely there is a problem with the administration of this program. I'm proud to say that I am currently enrolled in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and I'm excited to say that I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, I went to law school with aspirations of working in the public sector, and I knew upon graduation that I was going to enroll in PSLF. I did my homework, I consolidated my loans, I selected the correct repayment program, and yet my process has not been without hiccups. Unfortunately, the servicer has changed several times, and I'm constantly battling with my current servicer to make sure that all of my payments are correctly counted. Let me repeat, when we have a good government program with bipartisan support, it should not be this difficult for applicants to successfully participate in it. And while we're talking about the administration side, we have to mention the issue of the servicing of the PSLF loans. I understand that the last 18 months have been a trying time for everybody, and that the federal government, including its Department of Education and its loan servicers, have not been immune from the effects of a global pandemic. but we need to think about how to best serve our public servants. And we need to make sure there is a long-term solution for the servicing of these PSLF loans. And last, but certainly not least, we should think about expanding and clarifying the definition of who and what kind of work qualifies for PSLF. Let me give you an example. And this one particularly impacts new and young lawyers. It also gets to that access to justice problem I was speaking about. We know that across the country, indigent defense is guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. It's one of the things we are most proud of as a profession. But there are not public defenders' offices in all the rural parts of our country. For example, in Ohio, we often like to say that we have 89 different public defender programs. And that's because we have a state public defender program, but we also have individually run indigent defense apparatuses within each of Ohio's 88 counties. For example, where I live in Richland County, we have court-appointed counsel, where an indigent criminal defendant can apply to have free legal defense. This type of work, which is extremely important and which is often done by many new and young lawyers, typically comprises most of those young lawyers' work. However, although in my opinion it should qualify for PSLF loan forgiveness, oftentimes under the current guidelines it does not. PSLF is a truly remarkable and fantastic program, but that doesn't mean it can't be made better. I want to thank you again for your participation in this Student Debt Week of Action, and thanks for taking a few moments to listen about how we can improve and expand upon the great program that is PSLF.